So here is the thing. We had 7 CEOs here talking about SAATM, their concerns and everything. I want you to visualize in your mind's eye a very simple analogy. It's the analogy of a discotheque. You have been listening to the dancers. They dance to the music. Over here, we have the DJs. So, when the music changes, the dance changes. How many times have you heard about the Yamoussoukro decision, about SAATM? How many times have you heard the narrative that you have heard from the 7 CEOs? What this panel does, it gives us an opportunity to actually drill down with the DJs, the people that create the music that the CEOs, the airlines dance to. That's the essence of our panel today. And I have here with me people who really understand SAATM. They understand the importance of liberalization. And we want to ask the questions that have not been asked, the questions that you have, and the questions that you are dying to know the answers for. That's what we're going to do here. So without further ado, let me start by asking Eric from the African Union Commission. Eric, can you bring down SAATM to the audience? In your very, very brief 2 minutes, tell us what your perspective is in terms of this approach to SAATM.
Thank you very much, Elon. First of all, I just wanted to put here that the single African air transport market is among the 12 flagship projects of the African Union Agenda 2063. The main objective is to liberalize air transport services. One is to remove restrictions in terms of frequency, capacity, and granting of freedom rights. What I can say is that today, the single African air transport market is seen as a very important enabler for the continental free trade area and also free movement of persons within Africa. As said before in the panel which preceded our panel here, it is taken as an objective, but we're also looking at it as a journey that we need to follow, all of us. So the main indicator for the SAATM is what we brought it down into implementation plan, a prioritized action plan, which is involving all our stakeholders. The key stakeholder in this is the African Civil Aviation Commission as the leading executive agency, and it was put in place, and the African Union Summit has already given the mandate to AFRAA. We have put down 6 pillars which are going to help us in this journey. The first pillar is on advocacy, to make sure all member states of African Union join the market. We are currently at 32. We are hoping to get some more, a few more before we end the year. The second pillar is on strengthening the executive agency, which is AFRAA, to make sure it delivers its mandate. Then the third pillar is going to be on the regulatory framework. We have already put in place consumer protection and competition regulations. We are also working on having a dispute settlement mechanism to make sure that whatever disputes coming into this market will be able to be resolved, and we are involving all our key stakeholders. Pillar 4 is on infrastructure. We are looking at having both ground and air navigation services infrastructure within Africa harmonized, because this is also a very critical aspect. Number 5 is on the aviation financing, and on the aviation financing, we are looking at what can we do as Africa in terms of assisting the airlines, because these airlines are going to be the critical one to implement the market, and without the airlines, we will not be able to progress. So another pillar I did not mention here is safety and security, which we have a key partners like ICAO working on this, but all the other stakeholders also working on their safety and security. In brief, this is what I can say in terms of the pillars. The objectives, the advantages are all clearly stipulated, and we may talk about again later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Funke, So from your perspective as IATA, please share with us in terms of the developments pertaining to SAATM and liberalization in the next 12 to 18 months. What does your crystal ball show?
I certainly wish I had a crystal ball. But let's talk about what is happening today in the aviation industry. Rwanda flies to Harare and then to Cape Town. Royal Air Maroc from Morocco to N'Djamena and then to Nairobi. Air Sky from Lomé, Libreville to Johannesburg. Tomorrow, or Wednesday morning, I'll be going on Kenya Airways from here to Bamako and then on to Dakar. Let's not leave cargo behind. Astral and Allied Air are moving goods all across Africa. And South African Airways has recently shown us an example of how you can try to improve passengers and revenue and yields by not going directly to an international route, but going from Johannesburg to Accra and then on to Washington. These are examples of SAATM in action. So the flight has already taken off. SAATM is a reality. It's happening today. Now, whether we call it by its name or not, it's happening. I think that is really the key focus. In the next 12 to 18 months, what should our focus be? Well, starting from the assumption that the currency of SAATM is new routes, increased frequencies in existing or new markets and city pairs, then the focus should be on getting that done. Drilling it down to what the president of AFRAA, Thomas, and our host said earlier, which is true airline cooperation. Starting from home, we'll speak to our own base. We really do need to. And I was really excited to hear the overwhelming feedback from the CEO panel that we've just finished, where all of the CEOs, without any reservation, were very clear on the point of true cooperation and collaboration, because they understand that the status quo really cannot continue. They're all in an existential crisis, in a manner of speaking, and in order to move from merely existing to stabilization, to growth, and to thriving, we really have to see the cooperation. Now, of course, challenges exist. We've talked about them. Beyond the regulatory framework of the SAATM itself, which still needs to be fine-tuned, we have the operational and business challenges, starting with maintaining safety and security, going on to the regulatory and frameworks that need to be harmonized, high taxes and charges we talked about already, ease of movement and people across the continent in terms of visa and customs, infrastructure, optimizing them on the ground and in the air, and then human capacity development, of course, the shortage of skills we've talked about. And one of the other things that we hardly talk about as an industry, because we really do tend to talk amongst ourselves a lot, is how to bring in other players into what it is we're trying to do. We heard about the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. It's such an opportunity for SAATM and such an opportunity for the airlines. The thought and the concept of being able to move so many goods and services across Africa is wonderful. Now, I'll just end with the picture of the future in mind before we get to the future, which is that today, IATA forecasts that in the next 20 years, African aviation will grow by 4.6%. It's one of the fastest growing in the world, and that's one of the fastest numbers. But further analysis, taking into account a SAATM scenario, also gives us some very interesting, profound insights, which is that if SAATM is fully implemented, we can see an increase of that number of 4.6% by almost 5 to 6 times, and a reduction in costs of operations by almost 30%. That is significant and outstanding. And so the cooperation and the picture of moving people and goods across different city pairs that I described when I started speaking is what we should focus on, not the name.
Thank you very much, Funke. That's quite insightful. And I think everybody would want to know at what stage do we start harvesting that increase in in revenue that you spoke about. We'll get back to that shortly. So Vijay, from where you are, your observation, your experience, your exposure all these years, is there anything that you can actually share with the audience in terms of where SAATM is today, and what do you think should be the actual way going forward for the next 12 to 18 months?
Thank you. I think all of us here are fully aware of the fact that the socio-economic importance of travel and tourism, of aviation. Travel and tourism generates, what, 8.8 trillion US dollars to global GDP. For Africa, it's a fraction of that. 319,000 jobs. Africa is about 24,000 jobs. That is because this amazing continent only generates about 2.1% of the world's scheduled market. That is honestly an insult to Africa. Unacceptable. It's unacceptable to all of you, to all of us, because it's actually contrary to the interests of Africa and Africans. And this has been going on because we've been busy paying lip service to various decisions and declarations. We have been unable to have an honest exchange as to why the situation is not changing. As Funke just mentioned, the share of Africa's aviation is going to grow, with or without African Airlines. Is going to grow. Whether African states, African Airlines want to be on that aircraft which is taking off, only depends on African Airlines and African states. If you look at that slide on SAATM, Africa's 54 African states, 44 of which have signed up to the Yamoussoukro decision. 32 have actually signed up to SAATM. Only 18 have signed a memorandum of implementation. Clearly something is wrong. The value, the benefits, all clear. We are unable to actually move because we're unable to have an honest conversation about the challenges of SAATM. And it should not be a conversation on a panel. It should be a conversation in a room where people understand what are the concerns of those who are not embracing SAATM. Not just to hear those concerns, but to help address them. We've spent years, decades, talking about them, but never really sitting down to say, well, actually, how do we address those concerns? How do we together, as African civil aviation, move up this ladder? Unless we do it, others, non-Africans, will enjoy the ride of Africa's civil aviation growth.
Thank you very much, Vijay. That's very enlightening. And I like the way you say, with or without us, African aviation is going to grow. So the clarion call is, we have to be part of the growth. If we are not part of the growth, then someone else is going to grow on our behalf. Let me quickly come back to you again, Funke. So the use of access to studies that have been conducted over the years, demonstrating the value of liberalization and so forth, I think you have a cupboard full in your office with these studies.
Yes.
Maybe, if you can summarize for us in another minute or two, what exactly are these studies showing us? Number one. Number two, what then needs to happen? We know what the studies are showing us, then what needs to happen?
Thank you. Okay, just very quickly going back to history, many of you will remember that we launched a study in 2014 of 12 countries in Africa and looked at what would happen if they opened up their skies amongst each other. I won't go through all of the details, but I'm sure that you remember the numbers, something like 1.3 billion additional contribution to GDP, and 155,000 jobs being created, as well as reducing travel times, greater convenience, lower fares, etc. That was in 2014. we did a review of some of those countries, and we've seen an increase on every parameter where there has been an opening of skies between countries. So it's already, again, those statistics are already showing us that the benefits that we said, that we forecasted we would see in that old study, we're starting to see them now. In addition to that, just looking at the last 5 years, between end of August of 2014 and end of this August, we've seen increase in routes of almost 200 new routes opening up across intra-Africa and across the large routes. And on those large routes, there's been a corresponding increase in the number of flights, in the number of seats, capacity, etc. So that's quite significant. And I have the numbers that I can share afterwards. I just don't want to take too much time. We've also done an analysis of the increase, again, the same period, looking at the SAATM 32 states now. And again, we've seen an increase in the number of routes, number of frequencies, seats, etc. So this is really a proof of the pudding, if you like. We've said it back in 2014. It was a forecast at the time. There was nothing to show. We had no information or no data. Now we have the numbers, and we're tracking and seeing that we are starting to see an increase. Another thing that would be useful, Aaron, in terms of what needs to happen next is for the countries, each country, to have something that they feel that would justify why they should go ahead with SAATM, as well as the airlines. And it goes back to something that Vijay said, that honest conversation. So what's in it for me? And this is really the issue. Some of the fear that we've seen, some of the resistance or reluctance has been a question of the what's in it for me question not being answered. Now, if the African Union and AFCAC can really demonstrate through this study that is going to be launched to each country, to say, if you were to do this, this is what it's going to mean for you. This is what it's going to mean for your people. This is what it's going to mean for your economies. And this is what it's going to mean for your airline. Then I think that we can start to move that needle and start to break down some of the resistance.
Thank you very much, Funke. So Vijay, back to you. I think the audience wants to know a little bit more from your own experience. We have seen liberalization happening in other regions, in Europe, in the USA, and so forth. Two things that you would want to say to those states that have not yet signed. What advice would you give them?
Well, see, there are two ways to look at this. Either you focus on protecting what you have, and you overlook the opportunities you're missing out on. Or you focus on the opportunities you can actually seek and achieve, which actually is being demonstrated now will be much more than the percentage you're trying to protect. And the day we all wake up to the fact that what you're trying to protect, in time, you will lose. It's a matter of time. Sooner or later, whatever you're trying to protect against others, you will lose. So rather than trying to play that game where there are no winners, especially your own government, your own countries, your own people, why not embrace the change and focus on the opportunities and the growth, which will come inevitably. So I guess it's a mindset of courage, of actually taking the leap of faith. But a leap of faith which is based on data which is now available, which basically tells you it's a very unwise decision not to take that leap of faith.
Thank you very much, Vijay. So Eric, in 2 minutes, the AEC has put a lot of energy into the flagship SAATM and Continental Free Trade Agreement. What are the 2 or 3 milestones that will determine the extent of the success of SAATM? 2 or 3 milestones that we say we're going to measure this, and this is going to be the success of SAATM.
Thank you, Aaron, once again. In the next 12 to 18 months, and also building on the the SAATM Priority Action Plan, which is now our key document for now, where we bring in all our stakeholders. And as I said before, we are going to launch a continental study, because the study which was done in 2014 by IATA, we are going to expand it to cover the whole continent. And this is going to be not only SAATM states, but also the non-SAATM states and SAATM states. And the approach is going to be what my colleague Funke was mentioning here. We are going to look at specific issues on each country and also be able to draw a roadmap, because you have to see realities in terms of the regional connectivity. For instance, if Morocco is today member of the SAATM, and all the neighboring countries, maybe 2 or 3 are not members, so we need to look at Morocco and see how can we connect in that particular region and be able to go systematic, because we are talking of increasing routes, putting new fifth freedom rights, so we need to go and talk to Morocco and talk to the neighbors and see exactly what are the issues, first of all, and also the roadmap to be able to address those issues. Because we've seen that even the SAATM states, some of them are not yet coming up clear in terms of especially signing the Memorandum of Implementation. The next milestone we are looking at with the support from AFRAA, IATA, and AFCAC, we want to conduct a workshop and a summit which is going to tackle the issue of taxes and charges. We have seen that even if you liberalize, you have a fifth freedom in 2 or 3 routes, but those routes might not be viable because of other factors. There are a lot of non-tariff barriers. So we wanted to see this continental workshop, and I like the way it's described as a room where you can sit and discuss honestly. So we want to discuss honestly on this thing of taxes and charges. We want to hear from the air operators, then we can go to the member states. Because as AU, our big opportunity is to create a dialogue between air operators, airlines, and the member states. Because now the member states are buying to the decision of the summit. So we need to take the recommendations from the operators, discuss them with the member state experts, then take them to the next level.
Fantastic. So I only have 1 minute left. Vijay, take a deep breath. And when you exhale, one parting shot, what do you want us to say to those that have signed but have not implemented? Deep breath.
I will tell them to take a deep breath and implement it.
Funke, deep breath.
And implement.
Those that have not signed, what are you going to tell them?
I'll start by saying welcome on board, even though I'll be thinking it's about time. And then I'll say, go ahead and implement.
So Eric, as the regulator, deep breath, those that are unaware of what you are doing, how can they know? Deep breath, tell them.
Yes, I will tell them we are coming to meet you and talk honestly. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I think in summary, what this panel just has to say as a parting shot to everyone, it reminds me of Martin Luther King, who said, you must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or you die alone as fools. Thank you very much.
Thank you.